A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. Hi everybody, and welcome to Llyn Crafnant here in Wales, where the forecast had absolutely nothing to do with rain, but it's raining, so that's Wales for you. Anyway, my plan A today was to do a 10 photos from. That's what I initially thought I don't want to sit on that now, it's soaking wet. Yeah, a 10 photos from, but these aren't the conditions that I was hoping for a 10 photos from here. So what I thought I'd do instead is run through a list of things, photography things, midges, that I've learned over the past few years. I think every photographer learns these eventually, but I thought if I can save you some time by going through them in the space of a few minutes, then well, hopefully that's useful. And hopefully I don't get too wet in the process, and hopefully I don't get bitten by too many midges. Right. Okay, so thing number one is camera gear. All of it is compromised in some way. Now, if you watch as much YouTube as I do, you might have seen titles such as, is this the perfect camera? Is this my perfect lens? And the answer to that, I can say quite confidently, as of June 2021, for me, is no. There's no such thing as the perfect camera or lens or any kind of photography gear. So for example, this is my G9, my favorite camera that I've ever bought. You'll know that if you watch a lot of this channel. And its flaw, as many people would argue, is its small sensor. Other cameras might not have many lenses available in their system, others will have hopeless menus, others will have rubbish battery life, and others will have overheating problems. Some of them might even have sensors that are quite difficult to edit with. The point is, it's impossible to find a perfect camera as of now, and it has been ever since I've been taking photos. The trick is to try and find the cameras and the equipment that affect your photography the least, whose flaws affect your photography the least. And that could be quite a tricky thing to do, but that should be the aim, as opposed to trying to find something that's absolutely perfect. Because chances are, as far as I'm concerned, you're not going to find it. Right. As you might be able to see, the reflection has gone off the water. So my plan is to go up there, which will be sweaty, but hopefully I'll get a couple of nice photos. Now, thing number two is that photos are never universally liked. There has never been a photo taken that has been liked by every single person who has seen it. Regardless of its popularity, its critical acclaim, there will always be people to who that photo just doesn't suit their tastes, and that's absolutely fine. And that piece of knowledge gave me a couple of bits of well, practical application. A, it gave me the knowledge that it's completely normal to have people not like your photos when they see them. And B, it kind of alerted me to the fact that I was probably on the right track when I started getting criticism of some of my images, because it meant that more people were seeing my photos than just the people who would never give me criticism of my photos, you know, family and friends, people like that. It meant that people outside of those circles were seeing my photos, which I think is a good sign. And I say all this to kind of give you some hope if you've been disheartened or disappointed when you've had any kind of criticism of your work, because I think on a couple of fronts it's a pretty good sign. And just know that regardless of whoever your favourite photographer is, there will be people that don't like their photos. And it's fine, we've all got different tastes. That's what makes us human, and that's what makes the world interesting. So don't lose hope or get disheartened just because not everybody likes your work. It's normal. I thought I'd brought some hay fever stuff with me. Tablets, nose spray, eye drops, that sort of thing, but I've got nothing. So I'll have to apologise in advance for my streaming eyes. Ruins the best time of year. Anyway, the thing number three that I wanted to talk about was the importance of having an aim or a goal, because without a goal, you can't score, which is the cheesiest saying in the world, but I do actually agree with it. Now, the thing is, with most activities and hobbies and pastimes, like golf, for example, it's quite easy to work out if you've had a good day because you can score your day. Also, if you go fishing in that lake, it's quite easy to work out if you've had a good day, because you either go home with a big fish or you don't. I mean, you might put it back, but you know what I mean. Also judo. I don't know the first thing about judo, but you either break your opponent's arm or you don't. Is that the aim? Anyway, with all those things, I think it's easier to work out if you've had a good day or not than photography. Because yes, you might go home with some photos with photography, but particularly if you're not experienced, it's quite difficult to work out if you're happy with those photos, if they could have been better, and how many photos you left out in the field that you didn't see. And in my experience, having those feelings just becomes a bit sort of disappointing, and ultimately you end up wandering around aimlessly with your camera, not knowing where you should point it, if there was a better way to point it in that direction, and how many other things you could have pointed it at. And that, as I say, can become a bit disheartening. So my solution to that over the years has been having a goal with my photography, and typically that goal has been aiming for 10 or 12 photos a year that I'm really happy with, by which I mean I'd be happy to stick them up in my living room on the wall. Now, unless you've got a gallery-sized living room, you're not actually going to do that every year. But having those photos that you genuinely would put up on the wall, I think is a decent aim to have. And actually, going out and doing these 10 photos from videos, where I go out over the course of a day and try and get 10 photos, that has been really good for kind of honing my my focus on any given day as well. And those 10 photos are very unlikely to be 10 that I'd be happy to put on my wall. But it helps me with the process of trying to get to those 10 photos at the end of the year. Raining again, as you, I imagine you can tell. Lovely. The weather, sorry, that's just the mounted rescue helicopter. I hope they don't think I need rescuing, I'm fine. Anyway, yeah, the weather can't make its mind up today, which is fine, apart from these trousers are not great in rain. Very quickly makes it look like you've had an accident. Anyway, this 10 photos from concept that I keep banging on about, where you go to a place and try and take 10 photos, or you might decide 15, 12, it doesn't really matter. But you go to a place and try and take multiple photos. I think it's good because it battles the biggest secret in photography, which is that you need to take thousands of photos in order to end up with good ones. And if you want to take 10 good photos in a year, as I was talking about before, or 100 in 10 years, then you're going to need to take thousands of photos in the process of doing that in order to end up with those photos. This is annoying. Okay, I think it's gone. Anyway, your favorite photographer, regardless of who they are, they will take hundreds or thousands of photos for every one photo that you see in their portfolio. And there's absolutely no shame in that. It's absolutely fine, it's completely normal. It's just that you don't see those. And so if you don't know that that is the process, then it can put pressure on every single time you hit the shutter button because you think you need to end up with a result that is portfolio worthy or living room worthy. And it's just not the case. So take pictures without the fear that you're going to be judged by your rubbish ones, because chances are you're not going to be, because you don't have to show anybody your rubbish ones, unless you're a YouTube photographer, as I am, in which case you sort of do have to. But for the most part, you don't need to show people those photos, but they're necessary in order to get to the really good ones that you do want to show people. And that's the completely normal process for you or anyone else, your favorite photographers, the best photographers in the world. That's the process for everybody, particularly if you're at the early part of your journey and you're developing your skills. You'll need to take loads and loads of photos to end up with the style that you want, to end up with the skills you want, and therefore the results you want. Yeah, and it's just part of the process. Also, I think I'm going to abandon my little jolly up into the hill. I'm trying to keep phone signal at the moment. Emily is 7.5 months pregnant-ish, and so she's got a little while to go yet, but she is quite big now. She's sort of waddling around, and I'd hate to be in the mountains for hours on end without phone signal and something happened. So I've got an increasingly short list of places that I can visit at the moment, because as I say, signal is at a premium in the hills. Just check now. 3G, we're all good. Well, as you might be able to tell, the rain is really coming down now. But it's okay because I come down to the water on this little beach and I thought I'd partake in one of my favourite things in the world to do, which is sit by a lake and write some poetry. That's not true. I've never written a poem in my life. Wouldn't know where to start. No, what I thought I'd do is draw out how my photography progression went versus how I thought it would go. So how I thought it'd go, just bear with me a minute, talk amongst yourselves. So I don't know if you can see this. This linear curve here-ish is how I thought my progression would go. I thought it'd be quite smooth. I thought every week I'd be making gradual improvements towards the kinds of photos I wanted to take. What actually happened was, well, was this, which I think happens to most people, to be honest. You make big leaps forward and then you have weeks where you just feel like you can't take any photos at all. And it's difficult with photography, particularly outdoor photography, because obviously you've got to battle things like the weather, conditions, your location, your motivation, how much coffee you've had, how much you're focusing in more than one sense. There are lots of things that can wreak havoc with the kinds of photos that you're making. And your progression, I would suggest, is not going to look like that, which is why I said that with your goal, it should be like a long-term goal. I can't remember if I actually said that, but by it being a year, that's relatively long-term and you're going to be able to make judgments on how you've progressed within that year versus trying to work out if you're improving week to week. Because as I said, there's so many external factors that you have no control over. It's really difficult to work out if you're making any improvements at all when the weather might be shifting, for example. So yes, how I thought it would go, how it actually went. But the general line is still the same, kind of upwards, I think. It's just that you have huge peaks and troughs. And having a long-term goal hopefully sustains you in these troughs, because it can be quite disheartening being down here and you might have thoughts of giving up. Please don't. Right, I should really go home. It's getting quite wet and I have no signal whatsoever now, so yeah. Get back. Oh, you've not given birth, have you?
No.
Still in there?
Still in there, yes.
Everyone's been asking how Bump is.
Oh yeah, it's here.
Sizable. Big lunch.
Big lunch, yeah.
I like your mess.
Oh, don't. See all that filing there?
Yeah.
They're all empty, those boxes. It's just all on the floor.
Good work.
Here instead.
Have you ever tried Guinness chocolate? Emily got me some. Quite nice. Feel a bit bad for criticising the state of her office now, especially when mine is about 30 times worse. Still, I'm pleased she didn't give birth today. I'd have been in so much trouble. Anyway, a huge thank you for watching this. I don't know how helpful it's been. Sometimes when I do these kind of advice tip videos, I feel a bit of a numpty really. I feel like I'm sort of preaching and I feel like I come across as someone who thinks he knows it all, which absolutely isn't the case. I'm still very aware that I'm learning, as all of us do when we embark on this sort of hobby or whatever you want to call photography. It's just that since I started, I've noticed all of these things. And I hope that they're of use to you, particularly if you're at the start of your photography, hobby. Before you go, one other thing I would talk about very briefly is the importance of enjoying photography, which I'm not sure I did for a long period of time, mostly because I think I was thinking about the next gear that I could afford, or how I could save up to go to a particular location, or how I was going to learn to do, I don't know, something in Lightroom to improve my photos. I was always kind of thinking about the next thing rather than going out with my camera and enjoying the process of being wherever I was with that camera. And for a while, it looked like I thought I might not really get fully into photography because, as I say, I was always thinking about the next thing. And the thing is, if you don't enjoy the here and now with whatever equipment you have, wherever you are, then chances are you won't get to the point where you can be somewhere better with equipment that's better, because well, you won't enjoy it. It's very obvious that, I think, but it took me a while to understand for some reason. I'm really waffling now. Could be the chocolate or the Guinness. In any case, a big thank you for watching this video, and thank you to this week's video sponsor, Squarespace. So as you probably know, I have a Squarespace website where I have my portfolio of images, I have like a gear page, things like that. I also have an online store that's powered by Squarespace where I sell things like my prints and my books, works perfectly. I send email newsletters where I talk about things like my workshops. That's also powered by Squarespace. Super, super powerful tools, but also really, really simple to use. I couldn't live without it. It's become a huge part of my business, and I'm really grateful that Squarespace exists. So if you've been thinking about getting an online portfolio or perhaps an online store where you can sell things like calendars and prints, I would definitely recommend Squarespace. And if you go to squarespace.com, you can start a free trial. And after that, if you'd like to make a purchase, then go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off that purchase. And a big thank you to them for their continued support. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm going to make this disappear.